You are not free. The crushing exhaustion you feel every day isn't a medical defect. It is your soul violently screaming from inside an invisible prison you were engineered to build. You are polishing your own chains. Let me show you how to shatter them. The invisible prison we call freedom. There is a terrifying variation of an ancient philosophical thought that has haunted my mind lately, a concept that has stalked humanity for millennia, but has never manifested with such ruthless, terrifying precision as it does in our present era. It dictates that the absolute worst, most inescapable form of slavery is the one where the chained prisoners fanatically believe they are completely free. I want to ask you to perform a brutal thought experiment with me right now. Look at your current existence. Think about the exact moment you wake up to the piercing sound of an alarm clock you genuinely despise, dragging your exhausted body out of bed to put on a uniform of social conformity dictated by invisible standards. Think about how you blindly consume the endless stream of fragmented information violently shoved into your mind by algorithms, only to collapse back into bed in a state of absolute soul-crushing depletion. I realized something horrifying recently, and I need you to hear it. This life was not designed by you. It was intricately, deliberately designed for you. You are currently living inside an invisible prison, one utterly devoid of concrete walls or violent guards, a place where inmates voluntarily surrender their entire lifespan and vital energy to painstakingly polish the very iron bars that keep them locked inside. The inner multiverse warmly welcomes you to this space of awakening, where we dare to look into the abyss of our shared modern existence. If the weight of these invisible chains is something you have secretly felt but never dared to name, please subscribe to our channel right now, because your support gives me the strength to keep peeling back the layers of this terrifying reality in our upcoming videos. We have been meticulously raised to become flawless cogs in a massive, unfeeling machine. From the moment we could barely speak, the system hardwired a linear equation of happiness into our fragile brains. Get immaculate grades, enter a prestigious university, secure a stable corporate job, buy a car you don't need, drown in mortgage debt for a house, and fill that empty space with manufactured garbage that advertisements swear will give you human value. I know you played by the rules. I know you did everything exactly as you were told. But why, beneath that suffocating shell of middle-class perfection, is there an abyss of radical emptiness? Why has chronic psychological exhaustion become the default resting state of the modern human mind? The moment of true awakening rarely arrives amidst the deafening noise of the daylight. It usually knocks on your door at 2 in the morning, when you are staring blankly at the dark ceiling, or when you are suffocating in a 6 p.m. traffic jam, surrounded by thousands of other hollow-eyed humans trapped inside their own metallic coffins. That is the exact fracture in time when the veil of illusion collapses. You suddenly realize you are sprinting on a terrifying hamster wheel. The faster you run, the more violently the wheel spins, yet you are completely paralyzed in space. I want you to know that this overwhelming, paralyzing dread is not a psychological disorder that needs to be suppressed with chemical sedatives. It is the profoundly healthy, fiercely rational reaction of a wild, sovereign creature that has suddenly realized it is locked inside a cage. This is not a comforting lullaby to tell you that everything will be fine. Nothing will be fine if you keep your eyes closed. This is a visceral invitation to embark on a cruel, unforgiving journey, to finally discover, confront, and name the invisible chains that are bleeding you dry. To truly understand how to dismantle this cage, we must first dissect the brilliant, insidious architecture of the illusions that keep us pacified. The architecture of our subjugation. The modern system does not control us through the blunt threat of physical violence. It controls us through the weaponization of our own desires and the surgical hijacking of our attention. Look closely at the landscape of our daily lives. We are inundated with a relentless barrage of digital noise, designed by armies of behavioral psychologists to keep our dopamine receptors in a perpetual state of desperate starvation. I have watched myself and those I love lose hours, days, and ultimately years, staring into glowing rectangles, trading the irreplaceable currency of our finite lifespan for fleeting moments of engineered outrage or superficial validation. This is not a tragic accident of the digital age. A population that is perpetually distracted, chronically fatigued, and addicted to micro-doses of engineered pleasure is a population that lacks the baseline vitality required to question the foundation of its own reality. The system demands your exhaustion. It needs you to return home from your cubicle so fundamentally drained that you have no cognitive band left to read, to philosophize, or to build a life outside its rigid parameters. Instead, you collapse on the couch and order processed food, paying for conveniences that merely medicate the pain of the life you are forced to endure. We are trapped in a beautifully decorated financial terrarium, where debt is handed out as a societal rite of passage. That 30-year mortgage, those maxed-out credit cards, the financing on that luxury car, they are the invisible tethers that ensure you will show up on Monday morning, compliant, docile, and afraid to lose what you do not truly own. We have been tricked into financing our own subjugation, trading the wild, unpredictable adventure of authentic living for a sanitized, predictable script where safety is the ultimate god and genuine experience is a luxury we can no longer afford. Yet, the most devastating triumph of this architecture is not the theft of our time or our money, but the quiet, systematic erasure of who we were originally meant to be. The erosion of the authentic self. There is a tragedy occurring deep within the human spirit, a silent epidemic of soul loss that no economic metric or stock market graph will ever capture. I remember looking in the mirror one morning and realizing that the person staring back was merely a composite sketch of everyone else's expectations. I was wearing the flawless mask of a successful, well-adjusted citizen, but underneath, the core of my being felt entirely hollowed out. When you spend decades suppressing your natural intuition, ignoring your innate passions, and violently molding your personality to fit into the rigid geometric shapes of corporate culture, something inside you inevitably dies. We become phantoms in our own lives, going through the motions of relationships and careers with a detached, clinical apathy. This is exactly why the modern world feels so terrifyingly lonely, even when we are crammed into cities surrounded by millions. We are not interacting as authentic beings. We are avatars of social conditioning, interacting with other avatars. The grief of this monumental disconnection manifests as the anxiety and depression that heavily plague our generation. Society rushes to tell us these are merely chemical imbalances to be corrected with a pill. But I intimately know they are the frantic, desperate cries of a neglected soul suffocating beneath layers of concrete conformity. Your depression is often your deep, primal self refusing to participate in a toxic paradigm. It is your spirit going on strike. We have entirely forgotten how to feel the damp earth beneath our feet, how to listen to the haunting stillness of our own minds, and how to create simply for the pure, unadulterated sake of creation. We have become passive consumers of existence rather than active creators of it. And in that tragic transaction, we have forfeited the very essence that makes us undeniably, fiercely human. Confronting this ghostly, hollowed-out reflection is terrifying. But it is precisely within that terror where the seeds of our genuine rebellion must be planted. I will never romanticize the process of breaking free, because the visceral truth is that waking up from this manufactured dream is one of the most agonizing experiences a human being can endure. It is a violent psychological untethering. When you first begin to pull at the loose threads of the illusion, your entire reality threatens to unravel. The systems of validation you relied upon your whole life suddenly appear utterly meaningless. It physically hurts to realize that the ladder you spent your best years climbing was leaning against the wrong wall the entire time. As I began my own descent into this raw truth, I experienced a profound, crushing sense of isolation. The people around you, your oldest friends, your family, your colleagues, will often perceive your awakening as a direct threat to their own slumber. They will call you cynical, lost, or irrational. They will desperately try to pull you back into the comfortable, anesthetic warmth of the matrix, because your bold refusal to conform forces them to confront the iron bars of their own cages. To step out of the illusion is to step into the freezing, unforgiving wind of absolute responsibility. There is no longer a convenient script to blindly follow. There is no boss to give you a performance review on your soul, no societal milestone to objectively prove your worth. You are completely alone in the wilderness of your own sovereignty. You must grieve the life you once thought you wanted and ruthlessly burn away everything that is false. This rebellion requires you to look at your treasured possessions, your daily habits, and your closest relationships, and possess the uncompromising courage to cut the cords that are draining your life force, no matter how much it bleeds in the process. Out of the ashes of this painful, solitary unlearning, however, a new and radically unscripted way of living finally begins to take breath, forging a sovereign existence. True freedom is rarely found in escaping to a remote cabin in the woods or completely abandoning modern society. It is cultivated through a fierce, uncompromising mastery over your own internal landscape. It is the quiet, earth-shattering realization that while you may still have to walk through the heavy machinery of the modern world, the machine no longer lives inside of you. When you reclaim your sovereignty, the world shifts in profound, almost magical ways. You stop consuming mindlessly to fill a void and begin creating purposefully to express your truth. You look at a mundane Tuesday morning not as a painful obstacle standing between you and the weekend, but as a fleeting miracle of existence that belongs entirely to you. You learn to protect your attention with the ferocious intensity of a wild animal protecting its young, deeply understanding that where you direct your focus is exactly where you direct your life force. I have found a profound, unshakable peace in simply refusing to play the game by their rigged rules. I no longer measure my human worth by my daily productivity, my bank account, or the invisible algorithm's fleeting approval. My wealth is now measured by the depth of my internal peace, the raw authenticity of my human connections, and the sheer amount of time I can spend simply being a conscious observer of this breathtaking universe. The invisible prison we call freedom only holds power over us as long as we firmly believe the doors are locked from the outside. The very moment you realize the key has been resting in your hand all along, the concrete walls simply dissolve into dust. The inner multiverse is not just a philosophical concept. It is the infinite, boundless reality that patiently awaits you when you finally close your eyes to the deafening illusions of society and open them to the staggering, terrifying, beautiful truth of who you actually are. The journey is yours to begin, and the only time you have is right now. Why? The modern human condition is defined by an invisible architecture of subjugation, where our attention is hijacked and our desires are actively weaponized against us. We are trapped not by physical force, but by engineered digital distractions, exhausting daily routines, and financial debt that tether us to a system demanding mindless conformity. This relentless cycle leads to a tragic erosion of the authentic self, reducing us to hollow avatars operating on societal expectations rather than innate human intuition. Our widespread anxiety and depression are not merely chemical flaws, but the desperate cries of a suppressed, neglected soul. Waking up from this manufactured reality is an agonizing, isolating psychological untethering. It requires the ruthless destruction of false identities, societal scripts, and external systems of validation, which often alienates us from those who are still asleep. However, this painful unlearning is the necessary crucible for forging genuine sovereignty. Ultimate freedom does not require a physical escape from society, but rather an internal mastery where the external machine no longer dictates your inner landscape. By reclaiming our attention, shifting from passive consumption to purposeful creation, and measuring true wealth by internal peace rather than external metrics, we unlock the door to our own existence. The prison is an illusion sustained only by our compliance. The key to true freedom has always rested in our own hands. Profound lesson. TR, the physical act of escaping society, but the psychological mastery of your own attention and authenticity. The system's power over you is entirely dependent on your willing participation in its manufactured distractions and superficial metrics of success. When you stop outsourcing your self-worth to external milestones and fiercely reclaim your daily focus, you cease to be a passive consumer of a scripted existence and become the active creator of your own reality. How to apply this to your current life? Treat your focus as your most irreplaceable currency. Limit mindless scrolling and digital noise. Intentionally block out time for activities that nourish your internal state, such as reading, walking in nature, or sitting in quiet contemplation. Question your wants. Before taking on new debt or making significant life choices, ask yourself if this desire is authentically yours, or if it was implanted by societal conditioning. Stop buying conveniences just to medicate the exhaustion of a routine you dislike. Embrace the discomfort of authenticity. Stop shrinking your personality to fit into the rigid molds expected by corporate culture or peer groups. Allow yourself to feel the temporary isolation of outgrowing your old habits, understanding that this is a necessary phase to build genuine connections. Create more than you consume. Dedicate a portion of your day to pure creation, whether that is writing, art, building, or deep thinking, without attaching it to a financial outcome or seeking an algorithm's validation. A question for you. What is one daily habit you feel is curry and energy? And what is one small step you can take today to reclaim it? Please kindly share your thoughts in the comment section below so we can all learn from each other's perspectives. If you found value in this message, please subscribe to the channel to support our work and give us the motivation to continue creating meaningful content for you.